Hello again. Okay, I've got the flex circuit in Rev B. Fixed my pitch issues. So this is what it looks like. Just to be clear, this is for a Super Game Boy adapter. Should have had one here to show. Anyways, so this is the inside of a Super Game Boy. This is what it looks like, minus the flex cable, of course. So what I've done is on this one, I've removed the cartridge. You can see it right here. I removed the Game Boy cartridge slot and soldered this flex cable right to it. And so, and there's the back side. And so with something like this, you would, I would probably marry the Game Boy to this pins here, and I'll show you that in a minute. And I'd probably just use double sticky tape or something and put it, just tape it to the top side. But this hole is for the little post that's normally in the cartridges. So here's one that I did. That's kind of my tester. And although I'm not going to show you me soldering this all together, this video, it should be pretty self-explanatory. So here is the flex cable attached to the Super Game Boy cartridge. And here is the Game Boy attached to the flex cable. It's extremely easy to solder. In fact, I had this on my first video, and I removed the flex cable from both the Super Game Boy and this, and then put this one, the new one, on. So it's real easy. You just heat up each one and just kind of peel it away. So it's not a permanent install if you don't need it to be. Anyways, so this one here, because the inside of a Super Game Boy case has different little protrusions and things, you have to do a little bit of modifying the plastic. So here I cut away this little chunk here, and here's what it would normally look like. This is just a special chip case, something like Stunt Race or whatnot. So this little metal clip can be pulled out and then put here if you want to. It seems pretty optional. But so here is where I cut it away. That's what it used to look like. So on this one, cut the little tab off. Although this doesn't need to be flush. I could have left that about half height. And I cut this little thing off here, and then although it's not shown, the metal tab can be moved over here, and then that metal tab would mate with this little ground pad here, square. So anyway, and the top of the case, this is a Doom. Top of the case, if you're going to leave the Game Boy cartridge holder, if you're going to leave that on like I did here, then you need to cut away this little ridge here, and really probably the little notch needs to be cut away as well. So, but it's real simple. I mean, once you do that, it's pretty quick. The only other thing you have to do is you have to put a little notch. So if you see right here, I cut that little notch right there, right above my thumb. And even that is a little bit too deep. I'll show you in a minute. And then you have to cut this notch over here. And again, this one's probably too deep as well. But and even though on this one, when you cut the notch, it cuts that ground trace right there. These vias make that ground connection. So if you cut that ground trace, it's not a big deal because the ground gets out other places as well. So, and then this side's in no danger of any damage. Okay, so what I did on mine was, on my Game Boy, is I cut this little notch right next to the battery. And again, this is just a big ground plane, so there's no damage occurring to the traces. And so, and why I did that was because the Game Boy fits perfectly right here, and I'll show you. So because I left the plastic on, so there, so that's why I cut the protrusion there, so it'll sit right here, and then if you leave that post about halfway, like I mentioned earlier, that's what that hole's for. And then this just folds over, and you can see where my little, you can see where my little cuts grab the cartridge shell. And you can see how that cut was a little too deep. And that one just barely grabs. But it grabs. And the nice thing about this is that I didn't do any modifying up here. All I did was that notch there. But the cartridge natively has this plastic little shoulder that keeps it pretty well aligned. So anyways, so since I left this here, the Game Boy has to go on the bottom side as shown in this picture. And nothing bridges or touches or shorts. And anyways, it does make it a little tight fit, but you know, it's, you put some screws in there, it'll be fine. So I'll put some tape here now just to keep it closed. Just ignore that hole, that was for something completely different. That's not part of this project, so just ignore that. So okay, so here it is, all in a case. And here is my little monitor. So there it is, working. So again, this is the flex cable, and these are very expensive to make. Just because it doesn't look like there's a lot to these, the process to make them is a lot more expensive than a regular circuit board. So anyway, so if I was to, again, you know, now this one I could put the Game Boy on the bottom side just like it did the other one, and it would be fine. But you know, you could put it on the top side as well. It really kind of depends on how much work you want to go through. For me, removing this header, that plastic header, you know, seemed like a lot of work, a lot of unnecessary work. And so but I wanted to show you that this does, you know, mate without the header. And also, you could also mount this cable on this side as well. It's, you know, a mirror image, so you could bring it let's see here. So it's a mirror image, so it would mount right there as well. Let's see here if I can get a good picture of it. I think it's easier to mount with the pins. Anyways, it seems to take the heat pretty well. I didn't melt or burn any traces, and my iron is currently at 830 degrees, so it seemed to tolerate the heat pretty well. So other thing I've done is I replaced these electrolytics, with surface mount, like 1206s. Just, they're old electrolytic caps, 30 or 25 years old, so I'm sure they're due. So if you're going to come in here and do this kind of work, you should consider replacing these caps as well, just for being thorough. So this is it, and the Game Boy could also mount on, well, it doesn't have edge connectors on both sides. It just has edges on one side. So anyway, so that's it. These will be for sale soon, probably through mortoffgames.com. I can give you the link, or I'll try and provide a link in the YouTube video here shortly. So, but there it is, flex cable to hide a Game Boy cartridge inside a Super Nintendo shell.